even on a very cold and windy November morning, it's an absolute pleasure to be back in Bridlington. We've been working with colleagues and people here to define a vision for the next 20 years. The town has got so much going for it, but like most coastal towns, coastal resorts, the place is not without its challenges. The market is incredibly seasonal, so at the moment it feels a little bit sleepy. It springs to life in the summertime, so the question is, how can we make it more active throughout the year?
Ultimately, yeah, you know, we do have a lot of sort of retirees here because it's quite flat, it's not hilly, you know, it's a nice environment, an easy environment for them to navigate.
Well, coming back to Bridwell, lovely. I still can't believe I'm actually living in Bridlington.
Right, our parish covers quite a large area, which, yes, there are some larger houses and families there, but we also cover a large part of the town that's got bedsits and people living in pretty grotty accommodation, and people actually in B&B accommodation as well because they haven't got housing.
In winter it is a problem because you don't have much going on in winter. They should do like a winter club for children really.
It's just such a nice place actually.
Okay, I'm going to ask you a question. When you talk to your friends who are from out of town and you brag about where you live, what is it that you're bragging about?
This, yeah, it's the pier and the harbour.
And
that's if I show them
seaside
photographs of Bridlington, it's the harbour and the pier.
Fantastic.
Yeah, that's what I show them.
But obviously you need the younger people to come into the town because you need it for the workforce and for people sort of creating new businesses and new ideas coming in and helping sort of push the town forward and sort of raising the profile really.
I'm actually privileged to be a trustee with the Hinge. They're a well-established charity for over 10 years that have been helping people. What it is, the population for Bridlington is actually about 85% retired and elderly, and I think that's why you've got the problem in terms of they're not catering for youngsters that actually live in the town.
I did retire here, yes. Yeah, retired early, as you can see.
We've spent a lot of money over the last 10-15 years or so, really kind of focusing on the things that make Bridlington unique and special. So that started with our investment really into Bridlington Spa. From that, right along the sort of seafront and the town centre area, there's been a lot of investment, both public and private. I think people can see the difference, and all those kind of initiatives have kind of come to an end at the same time, but it hasn't necessarily changed everything in terms of the residents of Bridlington and their life chances. There are still issues, they still feature kind of highly in the index of multiple deprivation, and so a real need to continue to focus on Bridlington and particularly the residents of Bridlington in terms of how we can help. But we don't have a vision or a plan or a something to help us kind of frame what that is and what we're trying to do exactly yet.
My name's Dan Anderson. I'm a founder and director of a company called 4th Street, and for the past 6 months or so we have been talking to people within the local council, within the community, and we've been trying to get under the skin of the place. So going beyond what are the obvious selling points and thinking what are the things that are driving those. We try to wrap around that an economic vision for the place, so that it isn't just a slogan, it's not just a brand, it's not a logo, it's not a marketing push. What it is fundamentally an economic strategy for the town that can deliver meaningful impact on people's lives.
It's just beautiful countryside, lovely town, nice people in it. Even some of the runners are all right as well. And yeah, we just love the area.
So what brought me to Brid was a bit of a career break. Coastal walks are very pleasant to do. It's a place you can very easily unwind with. It's very peaceful. Always want to retire by the sea.
Well, all the people who work here are local. You know, a few of them live up or down the coast, but certainly within a 20-mile vicinity of this town. So that makes it pretty unique as well, and it is its own community down here.
They get lorries coming down from Scotland, they get lorries coming up from the east coast, and they get lorries coming across from Europe. Lorries with 4,000 kilos of lobsters going abroad.
We've tried to find what is the a current and contemporary and forward-looking story about Bridlington. Key to finding that story is looking forward, not backward. So obviously the history and heritage of the town is important, and we want to celebrate that and showcase that. But fundamentally, we're trying to find opportunities that are sustainable in the future. There's a particular position that coastal resorts are in. And it's different to other places that we've seen, like old collieries, old port towns, harbour towns, places like that, where they were all based and predicated around a particular industry. Then almost overnight, that industry went away. But seaside resorts, it's been more difficult because the industry that has sustained it for the better part of a century, principally tourism, it hasn't gone away completely. It's gone away enough to fundamentally disrupt that economy, but not so much that it's easy to think about a new purpose and a new identity. The second important feature of the vision that we're describing, first and foremost on the people who live here. This is a reversal of the way seaside resorts have traditionally planned and programmed their policies and activities.
Well, fundamentally, the vision for Bridlington is that it is a great place for people to live and work, where visitors come and feel welcome. So that's been the vision for Bridlington for quite a long time now, and I don't think we're looking at significantly shifting that. I hope what it means is that everybody continues to be proud of Bridlington, the place that they live, that they feel that they have a future. We want to create jobs for young people so that they don't automatically feel that they want to leave or have to leave.
What's the vision for Bridlington? In very simple terms, Bridlington can be a great place to grow up, it can be a great place to grow old, and it can be a great place to live and work by the sea. The strength of this vision is that it points everybody's compass in the same direction. It's the North Star that ideally will change the behavior of every stakeholder in the town so that everybody is pulling in the same direction and singing from the same hymn sheet.
Well, this was taken on the South Shore before it all changed. That's my sister, that's me in the middle, and that was a friend that came over to see us at the time. But there was no toilets then. We was living in Dewsbury, West Yorkshire. We came here every year without fail for 2 weeks. Yeah, it was lovely.
The way that people have traditionally connected with seaside resorts, and Bridlington in particular, is through childhood memories. It's where their parents and grandparents took them when they were kids. Secondly, there's a wealth of academic literature which supports the idea that if you plan and program and design around the needs of children, what you're actually doing is creating better places for everybody. What you're doing is you're creating safer, calmer streets, cleaner air, better environment, more active and energetic public spaces. And that brings us into the idea of making Bridlington, if we really want to make it a paradise for 5-year-olds, is how do you make the place more playful? And when I say that, again, I'm not talking about playgrounds. I'm talking about injecting a sense of playfulness throughout the town. I see the level changes between the seafront and the beach. And all these stairs going down, and I just think, frankly, there should be a slide here. You know, if you bring playground equipment like swings and seesaws into the public realm and light it up and call it public art, then adults have a license to play on it. And we see examples of this all over the place, and it's the type of thing that, frankly, should permeate throughout all of the public realm in Bridlington.
There's a lot of people here, including me, that are on their own. So coming out to any group, it just means people are getting out. They're getting a little bit of it. If you're just playing table tennis, at least you're moving, so it's helping your mental health as well as loneliness. So I just said to my daughter, I might as well sell my bungalow and move over here. And I've now had a house here for 7 years. And it's nice, you've got the nice prom that if you just want to go out for a walk, and it's nice.
Second big pillar of the vision is we should also be focusing very clearly on elderly people, particularly more vulnerable older people. It's leaning into an existing strength of the town, and it's also picking up on an important national and in fact global trend, which is basically just an aging population. So the World Health Organization has already identified dementia as its #1 priority for the next few decades. So every place in the country is going to have to start coping with this. But a place like Bridlington has already got the ability to actually take a lead in all of these areas. One of the things that we've heard from people within the town is that care is a growth industry. When we look at other parts of the country, the bottleneck that they have in their social care and health services is that they can't get staff. So focusing on this part of the economy, it also creates an additional strand to the local economy in addition to fishing and tourism, and it gives possible career paths for young people.
I've got a varied background, I do like catering and things like that, so I also do like food festivals with oysters, do like an oyster bar and seafood platters and things like that, local seafood festivals. Sometimes I get dragged up to do demos, just trying to sort of promote seafood really and promote local seafood to get more people sort of eating it and enjoying it.
The running business is mainly seasonal because of the nature of seaside towns, so certainly now we're entering a quieter period, so it's a lot of different gearing towards different parts of the season, whether we go to bottle sales during the winter time or summertime sales where you've got a lot more on customers.
I work for a global company. A lot of the work I do gets done in Australia and Americas. I've got an office at home, so I can do 3 days at home, 2 days in the office, but literally I work for a global organisation from here. Right. And a lot of my colleagues, I've got people in Calgary, they look out the window and they're looking at mountains. I look out the window, I'm looking at the sea.
The third critical theme of this vision is for Bridlington to be a great place to live and work, given its natural environment. So if I'm standing in Bridlington, I look to one side, I see this glorious seafront. If I look to the other side, there is miles and miles of countryside. Who wouldn't want to live and work in that kind of an environment? There are obviously obstacles that need to be overcome, connectivity, but those are fixable problems. The baseline, the fundamentals are there to make this a great place to live and work, particularly for those hybrid workers who don't need to work in Hull or Leeds or York or Sheffield every single day. Therefore, the rest of the time, they could be working from a lovely environment with coast on one side, countryside on the other. The other important thing about the environment in Bridlington is its connection with that fishery. It's one of the most characterful, attractive parts of the town when you come in and you see that harbour. And that's a working harbour. You get there early enough, you can see the lobster fishermen going out and coming back with the catch. And it's not just any lobster catch. The catch in Bridlington isn't just bigger than it is in other parts of the country. It's orders of magnitude bigger. So when Bridlington claims to be the lobster capital of Europe, that is a genuine and authentic statement. I think we need to pause there for a second, because at this point we asked ourselves, what are we saying here? Is that what we're basing the entire vision for this town on, the idea of doing good things for kids and old people and capitalizing on the fact that we live by the sea? It seems fairly obvious and basic. So how do we make that specific to a place like Bridlington? And then it's occurred to us that a lot of places can say these things. And in fact, most places do say these things, but very, very few places actually deliver on these promises. So they talk about being child friendly, and then they reduce it down to more playgrounds in more places. They talk about being age friendly, and they reduce it to more care homes. What we're talking about is something much more profound and deep-seated, and that cuts across every plan and policy and program that's implemented in Bridlington. So it's really differentiation through execution.
At the beginning, you need to concentrate on looking after the youngsters because if you can't keep them in Brid,
Yeah.
you lose everything else.
Yeah.
It's worked in places and it really needs to be looked after here, to keep the youngsters here, to work here.
Yeah. It's like our granddaughter,
Granddaughter.
she's at university and she said, well, what is there for me in Brid when I'm finished? We need to encourage the youngsters, definitely.
Bridlington can be the byword for child-centric planning in the UK, and it can be the byword for a place that deals compassionately and with dignity with people who are suffering with dementia. It's something that every place is going to have to confront. Bridlington should be the place to come and see this is how it's done. What we're suggesting, this is about a mindset, not a master plan. We're essentially saying we are all now part of child services and we are all part of adult social care. So, what does that mean in practice? And how does this manifest itself in terms of actual projects? We've come up with some examples. Really conscious these are examples we've given. It's more important that the impetus comes from the local community. A great place to get started in terms of activities for kids would be something like a kids' kitchen. This is essentially a teaching kitchen where parents and grandparents can bring their kids so that they learn the difference between healthy and unhealthy meals and how to prepare healthy meals. Lots of examples of this around the world. We've got vacant units in Bridlington. Why don't we grab one of those and deliver something like a kids' kitchen?
You'll listen to people who talk about well-being, mental health and everything, that walking, running, exercising by the sea has a magical experience to it.
It's a case that if you don't interconnect, you don't learn, because with the people that are retiring that might have dementia, even though they might have a certain type of dementia, doesn't mean that their long-term memory isn't there. Because if you take time and visit a care home and sat down and listen to a person's story, you'll be really fascinated in terms of their journey through life.
One of the things, opportunities that we think is really exciting is the possibility of delivering a genuine dementia village. Now, a dementia village is something that was pioneered in the Netherlands, where they created an almost fully integrated community, so it doesn't look and feel like a care home, but it is almost entirely populated by people who are suffering at various stages of dementia. We're not talking about Bridlington becoming the dementia capital of the UK. What we're saying is that every place in the country is going to be confronted by this issue. Those ones that confront that challenge, that will attract attention. It will attract attention from business, it will attract attention from higher education, and it will be the exemplar place that becomes known as the place that solved this riddle.
I think we need to work more on getting the kids out and down here. I know some of the local schools do trips. There was one from one of the local villagers came down last year, and we did a talk downstairs about the lobsters, and they got to see them and hold them, and then they went on the beach and went for an ice cream. It's just a day out at the seaside, but educating as well. And I think kids all find that absolutely fascinating. You know, these prehistoric creatures are amazing to look at.
And thirdly is the opportunity to build on the physical and cultural heritage around the fishery. This is really all about making Bridlington a more appealing, attractive, playful, colourful, irreverent place to live and work. We've got blank facades, these should be murals. We've got fishermen who have fantastic stories to tell. We should get them into an oral history project.
I know one of the fishermen, he can trace his fishing routes up to Robin Hood's Bay, going back generations, you know, a few centuries. So it would be absolutely fascinating to get it, and I think it depends in which media it's done as to how willing they would be to partake. But yes, I think it would be something that everybody would be interested in, getting that piece of history.
At the other end of the heritage spectrum is not just the physical and cultural heritage, but the natural heritage. When you go to major aquariums around the world, you'll find that one of the most popular exhibits within it is the touch pool. What we're suggesting is, why don't we dispense with the paraphernalia of the £100 million global aquarium? Why don't we just take the bit that appeals the most to younger children and put it in a place like Bridlington? That could be a fantastically popular attraction that again does everything that we are trying to do, appealing to children, providing opportunities for intergenerational activities between grandparents and grandkids. It's celebrating and promoting the history and heritage of this place as a fishery, and it is something that is sustainable with a market the size of Bridlington as residents, but will also appeal to tourists. So that's what we're looking for, is we're looking for small projects that have big impacts.
We've talked so much about children and focusing on the 8-year-old, planning for the 8-year-old and focusing on families. The important thing to remember is those 8-year-olds are going to become teenagers before you know it. In the blink of an eye, they are young adults. And what are we doing for them? What are their needs and preferences and requirements? And I think the important thing and the opportunity that we've got in Bridlington is to actually listen to them and empower them and give them a voice and give them the opportunity to shape the world around them. And that's the exciting thing about this vision. This is the Bridlington Leisure Centre, and it's a real jewel in the crown here on the seafront. And it just goes to show that what we found throughout Bridlington, that in all those places and those areas where the council has intervened and gotten involved, it has delivered things to an exceptionally high standard. But we have to realise that the council can't do everything. So the purpose of this vision is to get the whole of the community pointed in the same direction, and it's to encourage and incentivize the business community, the local community, community groups to essentially pursue the same vision and ultimately the same outcome of making Bridlington not just a great place to visit, but a fantastic place to grow up, a great place to live and work by the sea, and ultimately a great place to retire.